I was born in Yemen, in a remote village. And I grew up as a farmer, working on these farms. It's a very beautiful place. One day, I had an accident where I dislocated a joint in the ring finger of my right hand. Now, this village does not have a well-equipped hospital. It is understaffed. It doesn't have all the equipment. So instead of taking me to a hospital, I was taken to someone who is called Al-Hakim. Now, Al-Hakim is an Arabic word which translates into the wise man. It means that this person knows everything about everything. You have a heart attack, you have a bone injury, you have a problem in your brain or anything, you go to Al-Hakim. This is a person who claims to know all about medicine, which is a fraud, actually. Now, I enter to the house of this person, and he inspects the broken joint. He's looking at it, pretending that he's actually analyzing it scientifically. It's just a broken joint. And he grabs one of the plants, and he started crushing the plant and wrapping the finger with crushed plant leaves. And I'm looking at him and thinking, how's that going to do anything? I mean, the bone is inside the flesh. So how is it going to fix a broken or a dislocated joint? Well, needless to say, it's more than 20 years later. It's still dislocated. There is no camera to show you, but it is really still dislocated. Yeah? Good thing that the pain is gone. Every time I look at it, I'm reminded that there are people in the society who love to claim big things. They love to claim that they know everything. They make extraordinary claims without us questioning them. This could have been a life and death situation, and a person could have died. And we trust our lives to, in the hands of such people. Which is why I decided to become a science communicator, to inform people about science from authentic and reliable sources, to provide them information from where they should know. And, well, I'm happy to say that many years later, there are over 34 million science enthusiasts who are following my posts on social media. Now, when the coronavirus pandemic started, I have to be honest with you, I was very skeptical myself. I mean, we have heard about the Sars epidemic. We have heard about the Ebola. And they were all contained because we trust that the best minds are always working to stop these from becoming global disasters. And then the World Health Organization published a tweet saying that, well, there is no risk of human-to-human transmission of the novel coronavirus. And that was at the very beginning of the pandemic. And this gave us a sense of comfort. Okay, looks like it's not going to be a problem. Well, and then videos started circulating from Chinese hospitals in Wuhan, and they were devastating. You would see doctors crying, they cannot go home. They're not allowed to go home because the hospitals are overwhelmed with patients, and they have to attend to these patients. Let's watch one of these videos. There were hundreds of videos like that. And even worse, there were hundreds of false claims at the very beginning of the pandemic. People drinking camel's urine trying to cure the coronavirus. Where did they get that information from? Some of them were drinking bleach to try to flush out the virus. Over 700 people died at the beginning of the pandemic because they were expecting this information to come from authentic sources. But it didn't. To the point where the World Health Organization published a post saying, please don't drink bleach. Right? It's a common sense. It doesn't cure, it kills. So where did the people get this information from? Now here's the thing. When disasters strike, when pandemics start, people are terrified. And there is a group of society, people who like to make things up. And now that we have social media in our hands, people can broadcast their thoughts, and some of them broadcast their thoughts as facts. And they become stuck in people's minds. They become very difficult to get rid of. And my goal, when I saw all of this happening and unfolding, was to make sure to provide people with authentic information from the very beginning before this gets out of hand. But how? How can we do that? I mean, science can be complicated, complex, boring to some people. Well, the answer is simple. We make it fascinating and engaging. Because when something is fascinating, we become intrigued and compelled to learn more about it. So I did a number of things to make science interesting, to rebuild and establish trust between people and science in times when they needed it the most. Well, the first thing I published was daily updates and facts about coronavirus. And as you can see, these are daily infographics. They are visually engaging. When you see them in your news feed, you stop scrolling and you read. And what's most amazing about this is that I would always include the source. So if you are someone who would like to see the source, well, that's the link. Or if you are someone who would like to learn more details beyond what's written on this, you can also just click on the link. The second thing that I did was the daily coronavirus updates. I noticed that a lot of people were going to different websites collecting their news about the coronavirus, and I said, you know what, why not put everything in one place and publish it every day at the same time? And people came to expect these, and they would come back to learn about the coronavirus. How long are we supposed to stay at home? What is the status of the vaccine development? Which countries are doing better than others at fighting the pandemic? All of these were answered on a daily basis here. And at the end of each one of those, I would put the number of daily deaths so that people stay alarmed that this is not over yet, and the number of recoveries so that people get a glimpse of hope that it is not the end. But the most important type of content that I published was the video content. I published over 400 videos about the coronavirus during the pandemic. And when I say during the pandemic, I don't mean that it's over. It's still ongoing, by the way. It's not over yet. And there were millions of views, millions of people were engaging with these videos. And I also noticed in the comment section, people were asking a lot of questions. For example, if you receive a delivery from Amazon, will you get a coronavirus? Or if you go to the grocery store and you want to buy something, will you get a coronavirus when you come back? These are common questions, so I decided to host scientists who are experts in this field and answer these questions that people always asked. And these scientists were generous enough to provide their time to share their experience with the rest of the world when everybody needed it. And this is good because now we're connecting people with scientists, especially that these scientists do not have the same amount of audience and they are always busy with their work. So it's great to provide them the platform to provide their voice so that they can be heard. Of course, the response was not always great, right? People say that I'm a fearmonger, or I'm paid by Big Pharma or Bill Gates, or with all the conspiracies. But these are comments that are meant as a distraction. The main mission and the goal was to provide authentic information, so I did not let these comments distract me. I published a photo of myself getting my coronavirus shot, and the idea was that it will probably provide people with the hope that something is happening, towards the normalcy. Most importantly, it's to give people the incentive to go out there and get their shots as well. And believe it or not, I received hundreds of messages from people that saw the photo and they said, they're changing their mind and they would like to go and get their shots, but they had a few more concerns that they would like me to answer. And I answered their questions and they got their shots. So here's the thing. People would be willing to listen to science if they are informed in a good way. The reason why people resist science is because either they are misinformed or less informed. And we need to fill that gap. The same tools that were provided to me, the social media platforms that I used, were also misused by other people who wanted to spread misinformation. And I gotta be honest, social media platforms didn't do a good job at trying to contain the spread of misinformation. And that's why we're still stuck with a lot of myths about the coronavirus. They're not going to go anytime soon, and social media platforms are the reason behind that. Now, I want you to take a look at these two viruses and tell me which one is more dangerous. Is it the first virus or the second virus? If you believe it's the first virus, please raise your hand. Just by looking at it. All right. If you believe it's the second virus, please raise your hand. All right. It looks like most people believe that it's the second virus that is more dangerous. Now, the first virus is Sars Cov2. It is the coronavirus that caused the COVID-19 pandemic. And here is the thing. We were fortunate that this virus was a cousin or a new strain of something that already existed before, which is Sars Cov1. Now, Sars Cov1 caused an epidemic or an outbreak between 2002 and 2004. And then a few years later, Sars Cov2 comes with a new strain, which causes the COVID-19 pandemic. But why is this important? Because the two are genetically similar to each other. And because of that, we didn't need to study it from scratch. And this helped in developing the vaccines much faster. So people ask, why did they develop the vaccines much faster? I'm not going to take it. It was too soon. So, well, we already had an existing knowledge about the virus. And technology has progressed so much that developing vaccines is much faster now. The second virus is actually more dangerous. These viruses are trapped in the ice caps. They are called giant viruses. And they have been frozen in the ice caps for thousands of years. And climate change comes in, global temperature rises, causing the melting of the ice caps, and these viruses are released into the wild. What's worse, we don't know anything about them. They are new. And they are called giant viruses. Why giant? Not because they are big, it's because their genetic material is big, which means they have more genes than the ones that you would see in a coronavirus. And studying all these genes would take time. When scientists took these viruses and infected a host cell, they found that these viruses can still be infectious thousands of years later. Now, if one of these viruses, through evolution, became possible for it to infect a human host, and we face that pandemic with the same mentality that we faced COVID-19, there's going to be a lot of deaths. If we're going to face it with antitrust in science, that's not going to be good. As of now, over 6.4 million people died of the coronavirus. And the number keeps going up. It's not stopping yet. What you are looking at is not just numbers. These are people. They had plans, what to do next summer, how to spend their retirement. And many of them died because of the spread of misinformation. Their plans were cut short. What you are looking at is not just numbers. This could be our future. This could be me, you, or someone we love. We could end up being part of statistics. That's it. But we can do something to prevent that. The first thing we need to do is we need to invest in public education. There was a study that was published in the journal Science Advances saying that it is cheaper to prevent pandemics than to actually react to them after they have already started. You have seen how global economies crumbled. They collapsed. And millions of people lost their jobs. Billions of dollars were lost. And a tiny fraction of that spending, if we spent it educating the public, would have prevented all of that. It's the mentality of how we face the pandemic that made it a much more disastrous event. Knowledge is the shield that protects societies against such disaster. And we need to invest in public education. We need to make it fascinating. You have seen the response to how I made science, and people responded to it. It helped a lot of them to take the right measures to protect themselves and their loved ones against the coronavirus, and we need to replicate that, but on a much global scale. The second thing we need to do is we need to improve social media. The problem is that social media platforms, Meta with its Instagram and Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, all of them, they're not really doing a good job at preventing the spread of misinformation. And that is an issue. And even worse, they are reacting after a disaster has started. In fact, to prevent the spread of misinformation, it has to be an ongoing process. It's not, oh, okay, there's something happening, now we have to introduce new policies. They should always find ways to prevent the spread of misinformation. But most importantly, what can we do on a personal level, you and I? Well, we need to be more inquisitive. We need to ask questions. We need to trace out the source. Is this coming from an authentic source, or is it just someone who's claiming something without any evidence? Carl Sagan, a great astronomer and science communicator, said, "Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence." And we need to chase that evidence. And Einstein said, education is not the learning of facts, it's understanding the process. So we need to use the process of education to find out the sources and to distinguish between what's authentic and what's not, and keep asking questions, because if we all do that, we're going to improve the collective intelligence of our communities, and this will protect everybody. Thank you.